Hello, and again, welcome to Bit Depth. I'm Santiago Ramones. There's a storm going on from the last podcast, so forgive any thunder and rain and everything. In this podcast, I'm discussing a little bit more of where my spirituality has led and how I've arrived there logically. Real quick, some science, I guess. Evolution is a fact. Things evolved. The way they evolve is by natural selection. That's the theory. But a theory isn't like, I think that's what it is. That's a hypothesis. Hypotheses are thoroughly tested until they become theories. They become truth. Truth in the sense that all of the rigorous experiments have been confirmed by that theory. And until further notice, there's still no other scientific information that disproves it. You can't just ignore science because you don't understand what theory means. Thank you, Joe Hansen and PBS, for that one. It's not entirely relevant right now. I just wanted to get that out of the way. Fun facts. If I haven't said this enough, here are my 3 things. Love never fails. It's going to be okay. I might be wrong. First, love never fails. Yes, that comes from the Bible, 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 8. But it doesn't just come from the Bible. A large amount of the world's religions have expressed the importance of love. The reason it's consistent among religions is because it's consistent among human beings. Humans are loving beings. And the Bible wants to refute that, saying that we're not worthy, we're not holy, and there's nothing we can do about it. It's a harmful ideology. Humans are loving beings. To quote Chris Ryan, nobody ever got PTSD from helping a stranger. Humans have evolved to help one another. It goes back to hunter-gatherers, when we had to rely on one another's skills to survive. Those that worked well with others got to survive and reproduce. Those that didn't work well with others did not get to survive or reproduce. This basic idea is quasi-relevant to Kant's first formulation of the categorical imperative. Quote, act only according to that maxim whereby you can at the same time will that it should become a universal law without contradiction. If lying becomes a universal law, then the concept of truth becomes null, thereby contradicting itself. If killing becomes a universal law, then there is no more preservation of life, and no one to uphold the universal law of killing. However, if this is applied to helping each other, there's no contradiction. Unless, of course, everyone helps each other to the point of not needing being helped anymore. Whether or not this can be achieved, it's a good maxim to follow. Even if the goal is reached, wouldn't that be great anyways? So, what leads us to believe that humans are evil? Well, the media, religion, public perception, many other things, but then you have to consider the millennia of humans trying their hardest not to coexist. It's a nature that isn't sustainable. We couldn't have survived without working together. At the same time, the biology and psychology don't line up with that idea. If we were to survive on our own, we wouldn't have evolved the way that we are. We would have evolved as big, menacing beasts. We wouldn't be able to create more than one child in a short amount of time, seeing as how the beasts would merely destroy themselves instead of work together. The human mind is also reliant on other people. While I couldn't find this specific study myself, and not for lack of trying, I've been told that human babies actually die from a lack of touch. Correct me if I'm wrong. Our brains require other people. Solitary confinement makes even the worst supermax prisoners cringe. Love is crucial to our well-being. We need it. I have to reiterate that we must not kill. Almost every situation has an option of more loving, less violence, less killing, while still preserving life and having a positive outcome. And if the situation has no loving option, it's because the events and environment contributing to that situation weren't loving to begin with. That's why nowadays it's much more acceptable to kill in certain situations, which is the right answer in certain situations. And I don't like that it is the right answer, and I would rather live in a world that didn't have that as the right answer. Every human being has the potential to be either Hitler or Da Vinci. I think I said Isaac Newton, another one. It's up to us to make sure that everyone gets everything they need to be as intelligent and influential as they can be, rather than have everyone receive enough abuse or be neglected enough to be as awful as they can be. It's a damn shame that people think that it's okay for some people to be killed. The human mind is like clay. It can be shaped and molded, and as time goes on, the clay starts to harden and dry out. But that doesn't mean that it can't be shaped anymore. It just means it takes more work to shape it. Every mind that is extinguished before its better potential is fulfilled is another step away from a cure to cancer, the next groundbreaking invention, the most profound music, the most beautiful painting. And even those that are deeper in the well of sadness or insanity, those people can contribute too. We have something to learn from everyone. Even if a locked up serial killer is never fully rehabilitated, they can still help us see how they got to where they are, and how we can shape the world to prevent that from happening again. Every step we take to oppress others, to make sure that they are below us, is slowing down humanity. We could be so much more than what we are now. Together, we thrive. Love is more than just caring about each other. It's wanting the best for them, wishing to reduce the suffering of others. To want otherwise, or to be indifferent, is literally insane. I'm gonna get a little off track here, but bear with me. Before humans ever needed any money or bartering, humans could obtain everything they needed by interacting with one another and by going into nature and getting what they needed themselves. Why fight each other when the weather is magnificent, the men and women are beautiful, and there's plenty of food we can gather from the bushes and trees, also animals we can hunt? Chris Ryan suggests that the start of agriculture began our downfall against our nature. Since we could make all of our food ourselves, why go out to hunt and gather? The problem is that it gave us a reason to have possessions. If someone takes the massive storage of food we've farmed, we have nothing. We've allowed ourselves to become lazy. But our bodies weren't adapted to laziness, to agriculture. We were adapted to run, hunt, think, and have sex. When we're deprived of these things, we become ill. But we secluded ourselves indoors. We fought each other. We created money, politics, and worst of all, war. All to defend our possessions. All to defend and protect our money. What use is money when you have plenty to eat? What use is war over resources when there's so many resources? Here's where we can use our stupid, brilliant minds. Wait, SpongeBob, we're not cavemen. We have technology. We use technology to improve our lives. No need to run when you can ride. No need to carry when you can load. We have the technology to improve human life on Earth far beyond what we have now. We have automated hydroponic farms. We have cars that can drive themselves. We can make a computer to count all of the world's resources and distribute them across the world's population. We can use entirely renewable energy to power our technology. This comes from the Venus Project. I won't use all of their terminology, but I'll give the general idea. The world can use its fullest potential if we use technology to make up for all of human needs, destroying the use for politics and war. Computers can make calculations that we could never make at a rate that we could never reach. And don't give me this BS about iRobot and the Matrix. That's fiction. Well, I don't really know enough about AI and all of that. But at least what I think is robot domination is unlikely. I mean, we program the values, we program the goals. And what we have to value as society is science. I'll reiterate that on my third thing. What the Venus Project proposes is not impossible. The facts are there. We have the technology and the resources to make this happen today. So what's stopping us? It's the man trying to keep me down, man. Without the sarcasm, actually. The so-called man is trying to keep us down. It's the living system attempting to perpetuate itself and stop those trying to bring it down. They use fear. I mean, have you watched the news lately? Everything and everyone is going to kill you. So buy more things so that you can stop feeling so scared about everything that's going to kill you, even though the things that you're buying are going to kill you. And they put their own people against each other. Some of you that are hearing me say this are going to say that this is stupid and crazy. That I'm just a crazy anarchist and I don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe the government should take me out before I actually convince them to question the world around them. But I won't use fear. I'll use reason. Every human being has the potential to help you in some way. They could cure cancer, or diabetes, or Alzheimer's. They could invent something to make your life better. Like better prosthetics or breakthrough wireless energy transfer technology. It should be in your best interest to pursue world peace, simply because of the benefits that come from all information being available to everyone, and having all of humanity on humanity's side. It should be in your best interest to love Earth and all the people on it. And everyone who thinks that world peace is impossible is just preventing everyone else from reaching that goal. Logically, love is the best way to make the world a better place. There's lots of other explanations to back this up, and maybe I can talk about them later, but I just haven't thought of them right now. Regardless, we can make the world a better place through love. Love never fails. Second, it's going to be okay. High up in the north, in the land called Svithjod, there stands a rock. It is 100 miles high and 100 miles wide. Once every 1,000 years, a little bird comes to this rock to sharpen its beak. When the rock has thus been worn away, then a single day of eternity will have gone by. That's from the Story of Mankind by Hendrik Willem van Loon. I haven't read it myself, I just looked it up because I heard Stan Lee quote it once. I bring this up to make two contradicting points. The first is that in the vast expanse of the universe, the massive scope of time, we don't matter. We are a blink of a blink of a blink in the span of time. In the time it took a star to be born, your lifetime has gone by more than 100 times over. It took the universe 10 billion years to even start what would eventually become life on Earth. Things lived, died, suffered, thrived, I think that's a word, and were forgotten by the universe almost as quickly as they began. Our lives don't matter. We are barely even a pale blue dot. The universe doesn't give a damn about you, me, or anyone. Everything you know and love will be gone in the blink of an eye. Nothing matters. The second point, to contradict that, the Big Bang, referred to theory as I mentioned earlier, caused everything to go into motion, and as everything became what we know it, everything followed the rules and evolved into exactly that which we have now, which is where you come in. You, fellow listener, I'm talking to you. Every single atom in your body is different in some way. I won't get into isotopes and radioactive decay and subatomic particles and all that, but all of the atoms combined into molecules and all the things necessary for you to be alive. Your genome was formed. You are the only you that has existed and ever will exist right now. You are you. The beauty of the universe created who you are and what you've become and what you will become. You are complex and different. Everything that you do affects this very unique time frame. You are special. And you are capable of so many things. But you have oh so little time. Everything you do is precious. Everything you are is finite. Everything you do needs to be the best you can be, because this is the only time that you get to be alive. So, you have to do your best. Be everything you can, because everything in this moment matters. So there's that. Nothing matters. Everything matters. It's a fun duality. You can choose to give up and do nothing. Nothing matters anyways. But if you do nothing, then you've wasted the only time you have. Everything matters. This leads me to actually acknowledge why I'm on this point to begin with. It's going to be okay. That's because nothing matters. And that's because everything matters. Imagine the best thing that could ever happen to you. You get rich and famous and provide for your family, and you have the best relationships and with friends and loved ones. You've benefited mankind. You're a gift to humanity with your art and your contributions to the zeitgeist of the universe. Well, maybe not universe, but Earth. Everything is magnificent. Then you die, and those relationships are gone, and all your fame and riches mean nothing once you're dead. But that's okay. The rest of the world will survive. The universe goes on. It's okay. It's going to be okay. Imagine the opposite. Your life is full of misery. You're starving, alone, reviled by everyone. You're constantly in pain, sick, suffering, and finally you die. And nobody cared. But all of the pain and suffering is gone now. It all means nothing once you're dead. But that's okay. The rest of the world will survive. The universe goes on. It's okay. It's always going to be okay. The universe has a way of returning to a default state of being devoid of any concern for you. But we live and die, and that's that, and that's fine. It was pretty good. Well, I mean, it wasn't the best at times. Sometimes stuff sucks. But then it ended up alright. It ended up okay. It's always going to be okay. It's going to be okay. I generally maintain a pretty positive point of view. By now, you may have noticed I'm kind of an optimist. I'm pretty optimistic. World peace is possible and we can fix the world's problems by working together. I think that's pretty optimistic. I call it logical optimism. Sorry. Let's take into consideration the two extremes, optimism and pessimism. Forgive my overgeneralization for the sake of the example. Extreme optimism sees the world as sunshine and rainbows. Nothing bad will ever happen because everything is great. Sometimes stuff happens, but those are great too. Or at least they just lead to great things. What happens to this point of view is that it's shattered by reality. Just by mere causality. Something can happen and things don't end up all right for the extreme optimist. This shatters their whole worldview. They expected everything to be great, to the point that they never stopped to prepare for when things would actually go wrong. And then things go wrong. And man, do they go wrong. I've known of some people that were so very positive and then committed suicide. Maybe something happened where they lost their joy. Or they were never truly joyous to begin with. Either way, extreme optimism isn't the best way to go, especially when things go wrong. Let's try the other extreme. Extreme pessimism sees the world in all of its darkness, hatred, and bloodthirsty horror. There's so much suffering in the world, and there's nothing we can do about it, says the pessimist. Sometimes the extreme pessimist is right. There's some horrifying things in the world. Human trafficking, slavery, starvation, disease, and so on. Those things are awful. But when a good thing comes their way, they refuse to be happy about it because everything sucks. What's the point of living if everything sucks? Here's a question I ask myself and others to attempt to dispel this mentality. Do you want to be right about it? Example, everything sucks. Do you want to be right about that? If everything did suck, then our lives would be much worse than they actually are. Do you really want that? Do you want things to get worse just to prove your point? Of course not. That's insane. Here's where logical optimism comes in. Assess situations and the world in a way that is honest and factual, but also value the good things greater because it's in your best interest. Good is good in and of itself. Seek to make good things happen. And don't let bad things in. They're not good for you. It just makes sense. There's no point in dwelling on the bad things that will happen. That's a given. Merely rely on the notion that good things are also going to happen. I want good things to happen, so I'll count on them happening. And good things are around me all the time. I just have to acknowledge them. Here's a hypothetical situation where I apply the selective value of events. I'm driving along on the highway, and I drive over something just sharp enough for me to have a flat tire. Blech. Well, of course, that is likely to happen, given the amount of things on the road and the number of risks posed when driving at all. This isn't the worst thing that could happen, and I'm happy nothing worse happened, and that it's just a flat tire. So I pull over to change my tire. As I check my equipment available for the service, I find that I don't have a tire iron in my trunk. Naturally, I'm upset that I don't have it, since I'll now have to wait for someone else to arrive and help. However, I do also acknowledge that this isn't a situation that I could have foreseen. I mean, I haven't had a flat tire before, so I haven't really thought about having the necessary equipment, even though I know how to change a tire. I can't exactly say I was prepared for the situation, because I never really had it in mind that this would happen. At the same time, I have a phone with which to call someone, like my girlfriend, my mother, either of my brothers, or other available friends. It's also a possibility that some helpful stranger could pull over to assist, as I have done for other strangers needing to jump their car. And I know it's not outside of the realm of possibilities. Given the amount of assistance available, there's really no reason to lose hope or my temper. Getting angry wouldn't help the situation. I would still be stranded, just in a foul mood. Getting sad wouldn't help either. Regardless of how helpless I am, I'm aware that everything's not lost. So a few tears wouldn't change much either. What does help is maintaining a positive attitude and steady vigilance, prepared for any other good or bad thing that may happen. I certainly hope the good things happen, and I hope the bad things don't, and I'll figure it out as I go. I only know what I know, and I can do quite a bit with what I know. This outlook on life has helped me to get through some awful, awkward, painful, inconvenient, and stressful situations. In due time, everything sorts itself out. Pain is temporary. This too shall pass. It's going to be okay. Lastly, I might be wrong. I find it thoroughly enjoyable that this last one nullifies the other two. That's sort of the point. Who am I, anyways? I'm just some kid talking into your ears. What do I know? I mean, I'm just a human being experiencing life within my limited senses and making hypotheses based on these tiny snippets of reality that my brain is being fed by the universe. Science knows, however, well, sort of. It's pretty good at figuring out what works and what doesn't. And when something gets proven wrong, science doesn't get mad or throw a fit. It merely corrects the mistake and improves upon it. I'd like to be more like science. There are things that I used to think were true, and when I was proven wrong, I would get upset. Have you ever done the thing where you made a big deal about something and then came to find that you were totally and completely wrong? I know I have. Even after the problem was dealt with, I tried to play it off like I was still upset because it was embarrassing to have made such a big deal about it, especially since I was so wrong about it. It's hard to admit when you're wrong, but you really have no choice. So when the evidence is undeniable, you can shut your eyes and put your hands over your ear and yell blah 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 blah, or you can accept that you are wrong and move on. I'll be the first to admit that I've been wrong about things. It makes the transition better. How hard was it to convince people that the world was round? How hard was it to convince people that the earth wasn't the center of the universe? How much faster would we have gotten to where we are now if people embraced new world-changing evidence? And it doesn't mean that everything I know is a lie. It just means that it's subject to change. I know that when I pick up a pencil and let it go, it will fall. Every time. I know that if I hit my toe on the guitar pedal on the ground, it'll hurt. And I've done it. I did it this morning. But my idea of what the best way to tie my shoe is, or the distance from the Earth to Alpha Centauri, is subject to change. And so is everything in between. Going back to the Venus Project, they basically use the principles of science and apply them to society and Earth. What a concept. So instead of managing the planet's resources with economic gains in mind, we would manage the planet's resources with what we know from science. And all of this business of deal with it later is avoided. There's basically no argument for unsustainable resources anymore, especially with the scope of forever in mind. Science can tell you that. That's why they're called unsustainable. Applying the same values towards education and technology, we are able to create a sustainable world. But it's not like a set it and forget it type of deal. It's a constantly change and adapt the system to reflect advances in research and technology type of deal. There is no perfect world. There is no utopia. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't get as close as we can. An asymptote never truly reaches zero, but it keeps getting closer and closer forever. Math analogy. What we can do is continue changing and adapting to the way the world is going, or else die. A major fact of life is change and evolution. Things adapt and evolve in a short time frame and a large one. The only way to survive is by adapting to the changes, moving with the wind, or else be destroyed by the hurricane. The key to survival is adapting to the environment. To quote and do a very bland reading of Sour Grapes by Pucifer, "Know, my child, that there is no evil seeking to cause guilt in the hearts of men. No evil save blind faith, ignorance, and the desire for the unprepared to blame others for the devastation left in the wake of change. Change, my child. Change is in the heavens. Change is on this earth. Change is all around us. And if we are reflections of the divine, we must roll with these changes, for we are these changes." End quote. Without going into a thorough analysis of what Maynard James Keenan means in anything he does, I've taken this portion of the sort of song and held it with very high regard, excluding some of the more silly parts. Anyways, the emphasis is change. Change is consistent throughout existence. And change cannot occur if I remain stuck in my ways. I can't assume I'm right. And neither can you, but I'm not going to force that upon you. But to think that you're right is just holding you back. And so you might be wrong, and I might be wrong, because I can't assume I'm right. I might be wrong. Thank you for listening to the Bit Depth podcast. You can find my music on SoundCloud, which is soundcloud.com/Santiago-Ramones. But you won't find some of the things I played here, because I just played them myself with my guitar. I played All Is Full of Love, which is a song by Bjork. Actually, Björk, I think is how it's pronounced. Which was covered by Death Cab for Cutie. Everything Will Be Alright is a song by The Killers, and I Might Be Wrong is a song by Radiohead. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at SantiagoR_music, and maybe I'll change that at some point to where it's not so hard to say it out loud. You can also find all of these podcasts and all of this stuff on my website, SantiagoRamones.com. Thank you. Love never fails. It's going to be okay. I might be wrong.